Welcome to Ritual Skill Modelling. This is part 5 of Hobby Boss's M1070 truck and tractor with the M1000 heavy equipment transport semi-trailer. Scale is 135. In this part, I'm going to be concentrating on the fifth wheel and the mud guards for the actual wheels themselves. So a little bit of work involved on this part. So let's jump into this and see where I get on. The first job is to make up some of the boxes that sit on the sachet. These are toolboxes and so on. The mounts are made up predominantly of photo etch. There's a few bit of bending processes going on here. And initially it's just a lip on each side and the box will sit inside of this. Now, it may sound strange, but when you're bending these photo etch, you've also got to pre-plan it as well, just like you would dry fit. That's because of the nature of the shape. Sometimes the bends are in such a way that will block off using a bending tool to bend the next part. So have a look at it and see how you're going to bend it initially. You may have to just bend it slightly, do the next side, then go back and push it in with your fingers. It's just the nature and the shape of these things, but you will definitely have to have a look at it and see the best way to approach it. This here has little handles going on, as you can see there. Now again, some of these are made up with plastic and some are photo etched. I don't know why there's a combination of two. There doesn't seem to be any formatted to this. It keeps on saying use a photo etch, then say same thing, but this part's plastic. It makes no sense to me, but you do what you have to do on these kits, I suppose. Once the box is made up, there's two little canisters that sit in the bottom there. You can just see the location points they're placing in. It's fairly straightforward. You may have to open up the hole slightly if they don't fit. Mine were alright, but one of them actually was a little bit tight, so that's something to bear in mind. And then it's back to putting some more brackets on. These ones are photo etched, and these are actually going to be holding the wheel guards or mud guards in position. Again, the instruction wasn't exactly clear where to place these. The pictures on the instructions look clear enough until you really study them, and you find the location points on them are not exactly 100% clear, so there's a little bit of guesswork involved. But if you're not sure, look at your instructions and jump ahead on a couple of pages to see how the model looks in the other parts of the build. Then you'll get a good idea of where these parts are meant to fit if you're not sure. So I'm just making up another box, and it's a fairly standard construction. The next assembly is the fifth wheel. No, this is all plastic. There's no photo etch here. The construction itself is fairly straightforward. There's the bottom brackets that go in first. Depending how you want to approach this can also be free moving as well. I'm not particularly bothered about the free movement. All it is the fifth wheel tips up and down to simulate when the trailer gets connected to it. The location points are such that just placing in now, they just press in, and if you cement the bottom part to the fifth wheel itself, everything should be secure. The two brackets that hold the fifth wheel in position, there's only a small bit of assembly required here, and it's just an end cap on the unit itself. Just make sure you've got the proper size done. There's not really a left and right, but you could be tempted or mistaken to put the end cap in the wrong position, on the opposite position. The next part, wait until the assembly of the fifth wheel is dried before placing in the two control arms for this. The first one to go in is fairly straightforward. It's a little lever. There's a little location point just underneath that pushes in. The second one, there's no location point for this one, even though the instructions say there wasn't one on my kit anyway. So I had to drill a small hole for the pin just to get pushed in. I had to be very careful here because the plastic is very thin and can quite easily snap. In fact, mine did it a little bit later on down the line, but at the moment that's all it should be. So once that's in, it is time to paint. So I'm using the main colour here, which is Mr. Hobby 312 green. But I'm only using this colour for the brackets and the underside of the fifth wheel. The top part I'm using Revel Aquacolor 06 Tart Black. That's for the top and also around the sides of the fifth wheel. And while it's drying, I'm just going to be placing on some of the boxes I made up, and these just fit onto the brackets that I put on previously. There's 3 little location points for these to sit into. Then next is the one with the little canisters at the bottom. You may want to look at your location process here, which ones to put in first. There's no numbers on the instruction to say put them in any particular order, but you can quite easily run out of room if you're not careful. I can now put the fifth wheel on. So first of all, I'm placing one bracket on, and just placing the one bracket on before I put the fifth wheel on. That way the fifth wheel can slide into the bracket. Then I'll marry up the second bracket on the opposite side to secure everything in place. Now, to be honest, this took a little bit of jiggling around just to line it up. As I said on the previous part where fitting these boxes, you can easily run out of room quite quickly, and it can be difficult to see all the location points and where everything goes. So I just went through it methodically, of course, but allow time for this because you want to get this part right, or if it's not on straight, it just will not look right. Next is some more brackets to put on. There's quite a lot of these things to place on. Just work your way down the instructions. Don't try and put them all in at once. As I said, you can run out of room, so it's best just to do bits at a time and placing these on. And then there's some more canisters to go on. This sits into little brackets. First of all, this one I'm placing on, the bracket is on one of the boxes that I placed on a little while ago. The other one, you have to put in 2 tiny little brackets onto the sachet or framework. They're very small, so I didn't bother trying to show them because the camera just didn't pick them up, but they just sit on the main frame. And that's on there. You can see them unpainted. That was purposely left unpainted so I didn't have to try and worry about scraping off any paint off the contact points. But at least there you can make out the little brackets. Next I can fit the 2 main canisters or fuel tanks, whatever they are, on. The smaller one fits on the 2 J-shaped brackets first of all. The next one sits on the 3, and this is where I noticed that I put the steps in the wrong place. Well, I wasn't sure, but I had an inkling they didn't quite sit right. As you can see there, the steps are sitting just underneath the box, and I thought, well, when the cab goes on, I don't think the door will be there. But once I start lining up the cab, I'll have a look and see if I need to move them. And I can tell you now, I did actually have to move them. The next assembly process is for the wheel guards. And like everything else, the brackets are made up of mainly 4-edge parts. There's only one main bracket to go on here, and this will hold the line. The next one is the mud flap itself. That's 4-edge. There's no need to bend this one though. It just clips on at the back of the guard. There's a little lip inside just for it to sit into. There's a bracket that goes on the inside. There is a location point and a trench for this to sit into, so it's easy enough to line up. On the side of the guard there's 3 little clear plastic parts that go on, hence why I've already painted this part in before I put it on the clear parts. Then it's time to assemble one of the main lights. The first part to go on is a photo etch part, which is the main bracket that will hold the light. This is an L-shaped bracket you place on there. It goes over a little hole before you place in the clear light. And then above that there's a smaller one that gets placed in. And then running down both sides of the light there's 2 metal bars. They're sort of an L-shaped bar that gets placed down as the light guard. They're easy enough to fit. They are a bit fiddly. There's only one location point for them, so I placed them in and then swung the bottom bar into position. It is quite a delicate operation. These parts are small, as I said, but it is worth doing. On the back of the guard, there's a 4-inch part goes on. There's actually two parts to this. One just gets about a 45-degree angle bend and placed onto a mount before this gets placed onto the guard itself. Yeah, it's very, very simple. It just takes time for this to dry. That's the only thing with this one. Make sure it's thoroughly dry before you place it on. Then once it's all dry, it's time to paint it in the main colour, which is the Mr. Hobby 312 green. The mud flap, they use live colour black and rubber 1 black colour for this. So once they were dry, it was just a case of fitting them onto the truck itself. And they just sit on the brackets that I put in previously. It's a fairly standard fit, no issues here. And this is where I'll end part 5. And that's where I'll end part 5. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you go and check out the channel for my other builds. Also, if you can, subscribe to the channel, but if you do so, make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date, not only with this build, but all my other builds as well, of course. Hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course, you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.